We've all been wondering for a while now. The Model 3 got its big refresh, but why does it not qualify for the federal tax credit? But more importantly, what happened to the performance Model 3? Everybody was looking forward to that thing, and we all thought that maybe when they brought the Model 3 refresh to the United States, it would come along with the performance variant, and still not out. But thankfully, there has actually been some rumors and leaks brewing, pointing to the idea that within the next couple of months, hopefully more like couple of weeks, we could be looking at the most major Model 3 performance refresh we've ever seen. So Matthew DR, who has proven to be reputable in the past, he gave a lot of early Cybertruck leaks. Like, it was from Matthew that we originally heard that the Cybertruck was going to have an 18.5-inch display. That ended up being true, so I'm inclined to kind of believe a lot of the things he's saying, which sound right to me. He's saying that the refreshed Model 3 performance will be getting a revamped suspension system that's lowered, possibly even lower than the existing Model 3 performance, and have a more stiff suspension, which should be great, of course, for the performance guys out there. There also should be some redesigned performance wheels based on earlier leaks. I think it's pretty likely to resemble the kind of Anarchid wheels we see on the Plaid Model S. He's also mentioned there's going to be a bit more aero emphasis on downward force on the vehicle because, of course, this one has got to have a really high top speed, given the fact that the long-range all-wheel drive Model 3 got a little bit of a reduction in top speed. So please go all out with this one, Tesla, because you gotta make up for the weakened performance on the lower end Model 3s. Also, there's likely to be some revamped braking systems in place on this higher end performance Model 3, which maybe I'm even wrong to be calling it the performance Model 3, because we've seen lots of evidence that Tesla's revamp will be referring to the Ludicrous branding, which is still in reference to Spaceballs, of course. It's the only thing below Plaid, which is ludicrous speed, and there used to be references in Tesla's software for ludicrous mode, which I think the new upgraded Model 3 will have. And the most, of course, exciting leak surrounding this upgraded Model 3 is the redesigned bucket seats that are supposed to cradle you a little bit more, which is meant to be more comfortable in a performance-esque vehicle. And we're seeing leaked pictures of what this upgraded Model 3 seat could look like, and it has subtle branding for the ludicrous icons, and we've seen some blurry icons floating around of what the ludicrous badging could look like on the back of the Model 3. And honestly, I feel like this is going to eat into Plaid Model S's lunch, mainly because it's probably going to be substantially cheaper than the Model S, and I honestly don't think the performance will be that noticeably different. I mean, you're going to be getting a refreshed Model 3, of course, with ventilated seats, rear display, and ambient lighting, so some even advantages over the Model S. Probably getting a tighter steering wheel as well, and with that lowered suspension, and of course the Model 3 is much lighter than the Model S, that should come with some handling advantages on the track, and I imagine track mode will still, of course, be very present here. The only downside is the Model 3 isn't a hatchback, but if it's a performance car, who cares? And of course, the Model 3 is not rumored to get a Plaid powertrain, but probably the front permanent magnet motor that they put in the Plaid Model S is going to be put into the Model 3 front and rear, so it should still get a boost in horsepower, a boost in torque, and all of this while not costing all that much more. And there's a lot of speculation going on right now because, in case you missed it on Tesla's website, for some reason near the end of 2023 it was more obvious the performance Model 3 qualified for the $7,500 federal tax credit, and none of the other Model 3s like the long range or the rear-wheel drive qualify anymore, and we're pretty sure it's because they're relying on foreign-made battery packs. So the rear-wheel drive is lithium iron phosphate that comes from CATL, great for higher cycle life and great for affordability, but not great if you're going for a performance car. And then the long-range Model 3 is relying on a battery pack from LG, probably made somewhere in Asia, so it doesn't qualify for the $7,500 point of sale rebate. But will Tesla continue to use US-made cells, probably from Panasonic at Giga Nevada? Will they put that in the Ludicrous Model 3? It's kind of up in the air. I would say it would actually make a lot of sense for them to put it in the high-end Model 3, because if they can get the Model 3 under $55,000, keep in mind, sedans have a much lower limit to qualify for the tax credit, then they could deduct $7,500 off the point of sale of that vehicle while still collecting technically $55,000 per Model 3. They're just getting the first $7,500 from the federal government instead of from the customer. And that would make the pricing honestly very, very competitive. The long-range Model 3 is sitting at $46,000, so if you deducted $7,500 from that $55K limit, we're talking about only $2,000 more to get the performance Model 3. And I don't think Tesla Tesla would be too worried about cannibalization or anything like that, because at the end of the day, the performance Model 3 would be still a $55,000 sedan that a lot of people would probably be willing to buy because it brings so many of the Plaid Model S advantages down at a lower price point for the masses. And I think there's room for both to exist around the same price point. You know, the Model Y, long range and performance don't have that wide of a price gap. There's not as many differences for sure that there's rumored to be for the Model 3 Ludicrous mode versus the long range, but my guess is a lot of these upgrades to the performance Model 3, like the tweaked suspension, the bigger tires, the additional downward force on the aero, my guess is that's going to result in the Model 3 Ludicrous not having that great of an EPA range number, you know, like already with the new EPA standards for range estimation, the Model Y took a pretty substantial hit, and I could see a ton of people out there that are more interested in performance than range, so you don't necessarily need to price them terribly differently. Like, if you just care about range, $46,000 would be more than fair for the Model 3, which can get 340 miles per charge, and then the performance might be more like 315 or 310, so at least on paper it may look like a pretty deep cut on range, but hey, it'll only be $2,000 more, assuming you qualify for the $7,500 rebate, and you get all of these great performance enhancements. I'm guessing a 0 to 60 time under 3 seconds. That's usually what Ludicrous mode was referring to back when they had it on the Model S and X. Probably around the 2.6 seconds for 0 to 60. Feel free to speculate along with me down in the comments below. Do you think Tesla will price this Ludicrous Model 3 higher than $55,000 and not qualify for the credit? Or do you think there's just too much free money and free potential demand there by getting it right under $55K? And hopefully they do the same thing they used to do with the Model S and X, and they make all the paint color options free, so that if you want an ultra red performance Model 3, it doesn't cost you an additional $9,500 because it gets disqualified from the rebate. All that stuff, let me know what you're thinking down in the comments below, and thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again, have an excellent rest of your day.